Yes. Hey, boys and girls, this is Hal with another episode of Neuronymous. I just want to say thank you guys for hanging in with me the last few episodes. I know they've been really, I don't want to say down, but they've been really, really, well, they haven't been uppers, okay? They've been really, really hard for me to get out, and they've been extremely cathartic for me, and I've been really extremely appreciative of the outpour of support that I've gotten from as a result of those episodes. So I want to say thank you to all those who listened and responded to it. I truly appreciate it, and I also yeah, it's been a really rough couple weeks, and not, I don't know why. I've just had a really bad anxiety. I think I've got a little bit of PTSD going on, as I mentioned. I've had to leave work a few times because of what happened. I've just been having a lot of panic attacks, and I'm really starting to question my sanity, if there ever was such a thing in my crazy little life. But today I'm really excited because we've got a great guest. We haven't had a guest for in a quite some time, and her name is Camille Gabler, and I have known Camille for a very long time. I've known her before she was Camille. She is a transgendered woman, and I can't say I've been with her throughout the whole journey because, she has passed in and out of my life, both as male and now and coming back into my life as a female. So it'll be interesting. And the reason, I'm not doing it to exploit, the transgender community, but I really would like to talk about what the journey's like and what it takes to get there, and what you lose and who you lose and what you gain from it. I want to learn about the whole experience. And I've had a transgendered woman on the show before, and with all due respect to her, I really appreciated her being on the show. This is very early on in my podcast, so I really was quite green at the time, and really wasn't that great of an interviewer. Can't say I'm going to be that much better of an interviewer now. I tend to be very narcissistic, as I've been called a few times. But this is, for me, this is Camille's show. This is her episode, and I would really like to give her her proper due. And yeah, I really, it takes a lot of bravery for her to come on the show and talk about her whole story, and I just told her, at the very beginning, I said to her, is there anything that's off limits that you don't want to talk about? Just let me know in advance. And she was like, no, I want to talk about everything. I think it's really important for people to know my journey, and I think that's extremely brave and selfless on her part, because I know a lot of transgendered people who are not there yet. She's I think at 30 at this point, and it's been a long time coming. I've always known that Camille was special. I'm just really glad to have another guest on the show, and somebody that I care a great deal about, and I've always cared a great deal about, even when they were asking me for money. Haha. But I'm gonna keep this short, and again, thank you guys for so much for being so supportive. of all my trials and tribulations the last few weeks, last few episodes rather, and in a few moments I will be introducing Camille. So thanks, and we'll be talking to you shortly. All right, we've got Camille Gabler. Do you go by Camille or Cammy?
My friends call me Cammy, so
Cammy it is. All right. Well, I've been calling you Camille up until now, so Cammy, we are friends. So, wow, it's so good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm just. It's been a long time coming, and I know we had an appointment. It's like a doctor. To have you here earlier, but I think there's something going on with my dogs, or something was going on.
I was actually busy that day too.
You were busy. Okay,
it works.
Right, cool.
It works.
All right. Well, hey. All right. Good. Well, so let's start out from the beginning. I met Cammy. Is it okay if I call you by your dead name? Do you refer to it as your dead name?
Yeah, I do. And okay. I mean, you can say it as like you're introducing me, but further along,
Yeah. No, I totally get it. All right. So I met Cammy before she was Cammy, as I mentioned in my interview, or my introduction, when she became Cammy, when she was Colin, right?
Yep.
And in fact, it's funny because she just came from the Coffee Hag, and that's really where we met. We met outside, and it's been a journey. It really has. I mean, because I remember, you were, what are you 30 now?
No, 24.
24? Oh my God.
Still pretty young.
I aged you a little bit earlier. I said, I think she's 30.
Yeah.
See, I don't do it.
I have this bad habit when I was a kid because I hung out with a lot of older people.
Yeah.
So I would always tell them I was, a little bit older.
Right.
Not a good thing. I don't recommend it, but whatever.
Yeah. So we were both in recovery.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like we were friends, but it was kind of like one of those things where like we were kind of like more. It took a while for us to kind of get our groove.
No, and I mean, just to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I've honestly had a lot of issues with myself for a very long time. When I met you, Hal, at that point I had just gotten out of school because when I came out in high school.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big subject, but I'm sure we'll expand on it later.
Yeah.
But I was beaten up by my best friend and a few other people from a football team at Mankato East.
Jesus.
And then at that time, the same time, my family disowned me. My dad, even though he kept me around for a little bit before he kicked me out, it was still like a cold shoulder, like a
freeze.
Basically just a complete 180 from how he used to treat me when I was his star football player, wrestler. Basically my whole world came crashing down.
Yeah.
And I tried to find a connection with these people without really accepting myself.
Yeah.
So it's hard to connect with people when, number one, you're not true to yourself.
Right.
And number two, you're not comfortable with yourself.
Right.
You're kind of this unauthentic self.
Yeah.
That you have to kind of coach yourself through, which, isn't a good way, number one, to socialize, number two, to live.
Right. Yeah, and I for a long time, I felt like it's, and I mean this is not an insult, but I felt like there was something you were trying to you had a lot to prove. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
and again, that's not necessarily as an insult, but I mean, I can
No.
tell something is, you know, see, that's our dog up there. That's the killer. All right. But no, I mean, I remember when we were in recovery, there was a period where you were trying to make the transition, and I at one point I remember you called me up and you were like, I need some money for some of the drugs, and I was just like, I don't need to have money for me.
Yeah, no,
but
and again, going back, like, I honestly was incredibly unstable at that point.
Insecure.
Very insecure.
Yeah.
I would mostly, call it unstable, to be honest. I couldn't manage my own life, regardless of managing my own relationships with people.
Right.
I just kind of lived, like, moment to moment. I wasn't thinking about my future. I wasn't thinking about people. I was just trying to get through the anxieties of each moment.
Yeah.
And while that can be, a coping skill to get out of situations, maybe, it's not really something that you can keep doing.
No. No.
It's really unhealthy because, you don't really think of things in the correct way. I mean, you just kind of do, and you don't think.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was. And going back to your proving point, I 100% agree with that. I'm very honest with myself, to a fault even.
Yeah.
It's something I'm actually somewhat working out of, in a way that I can still address my issues, but I have to be happy with growth that I make.
Yeah.
I've dealt with drugs and alcohol for a very, very long time.
Tell me about
it. It's something that I started when I first came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was a crutch for a long time. Like you were saying, I was kind of in a transition period, but in my opinion, I really kind of wasn't too.
Right.
Like, I was on defense because every part of me kept saying, no, like, you just lost everyone. You got to keep losing people.
Right.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Just because I wasn't accepting and comfortable and happy with who I was.
Right.
So I remember, I'm not going to name names.
No.
There was one point that kind of, I had a lot of hope in the program.
Yeah.
And just like every community of people, there's still going to be issues.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I remember putting on this cute top, and going to Hy-Vee with this lady from the program, and I was trying to be really happy with myself. I was just trying to grasp onto any sort of happiness that I had.
Emphasis on try.
And to try.
Yeah.
And this person ended up saying, well, I'm really uncomfortable being with you right now. And and after that, that was kind of like, you could say, my last straw with myself. And after that point, I actually got out of the program. And I just kind of broke down. I started hanging out with these friends of mine, which are good people. They're decent people.
They're normies.
Yeah. And I just started drinking every day. I started doing drugs every day, tripping a lot. My goal was to somehow make myself not transgender.
Right.
Because I thought it's going to be such a difficult road. I've already lost so many people. And, gender is just a construct, Right. So there's got to be some way for me to not feel this way, to not be this way. I tried, religion, New Creation in particular, which is a very, very anti-LGBT church.
Yeah.
They are very outspoken about the evil that is gay people. And it's really gross, honestly. And
sounds gross.
But besides that, I tried meditation. I tried CBT, which is like addressing thoughts when they come up and then trying to change them.
Yeah.
I tried, again, tripping, which,
we seem to have a habit of going back to tripping.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, because that was something that I told
Yeah.
myself for a long time.
Yeah.
That would be an effective tool.
Yeah.
I actually am an advocate for mushrooms still, in particular.
Okay.
There is a few studies
Yeah.
which indicate that it actually helps you create quicker connections now this is the key part, in a therapeutic setting.
Right.
So I was taking it and then just going to parties.
Right.
And then
right.
trying to think about
Sure.
shit. And that is the unhealthy way
Yeah.
of using, in my opinion,
Yeah.
a decent tool. So, it's kind of a complicated subject because, again, it's just like any other chemical like that. It can be used recreationally and dangerously.
Yeah.
Or, in my opinion, it can be used as a tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
but-
I have this weird brain where like I tried doing this thing called EMDR therapy where like they try and retrace like the where they almost like it's like have your eyes go this way, that way, this way, that way. It's not necessarily hypnosis, but like they try and refocus. Oh, look at those eyes! There you go. Now you're happy.
Yeah.
I was like afraid that you were like just shy.
No, honestly, I forgot that I had these glasses on.
Oh, really? You look so happy. I'm so happy to see that. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So, sorry again. I'm a little bit emotional because like I've never seen you this happy before.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and it's so so good. All right. Anyway, so but no, I don't have one of those brains where I can just like slow it down to that point where I can just like refocus and route those synapses to the point where I can just change my brain. It just doesn't work like that. I can't slow things down. Like my brain is constantly on the move.
Yeah.
So and that's to be honest, that's really one of the reasons why I was doing drugs is because I needed. It's like that Ramones song. I needed to be sedated all the time. And to a certain extent, I have tons of anxiety, and I do take prescribed medication. And I've got some PTSD that has started a few weeks ago. I don't know if you listen regularly to my podcast.
I listen to a few, but
nobody does. Okay.
I'm just to explain my schedule. I wake up at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I have class from
Yeah.
9 o'clock till 2 o'clock. I go to work at 3 to 9. My schedule is packed.
It's okay.
If I'm not working and going to school, I'm sleeping, and that's only occasionally.
Cammy, my wife doesn't listen to my podcast. You're safe, okay? Like seriously, like they're the people that listen to my podcast. Like they're in countries like Slovakia, so like like I'm not like gonna knock you for not listening. No, and I'm not gonna delve too much into like my we had our dog, our little Shih Tzu that we rescued, and she was like the first thing because we can't have children biologically, so she was the closest thing we've had to like a baby, know. And I basically about 2 to 3 weeks ago watched her bleed out and like go into shock, and we had to put her down. And I've got some PTSD from that, so I've been having panic attacks at work and having to like take Xanax. And yes, I take Xanax. For those in the recovery community, I take it as prescribed. Fuck you, I don't care. So anyway, but yeah. So anyway, but yeah. I mean, I remember, like you said, you trying, and and then I remember I'd see you on Facebook, and you'd be back to who you were before without the makeup. You were just in your regular regalia.
And that's a great point actually to touch on. Is for 8 years now, more or less, I've went back to not transitioning.
Right.
And honestly, I don't know what was worse, not coming out previously, or coming out knowing who I am and then trying to run from it.
Yeah.
That's honestly the worst thing. It's even though I've been trying so many things to stop, it's the only constant in my life. It's something I've thought about every day, and just think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
You try to run from this thing that's a part of you, but you think about it every single day of your life. I tried being hyper masculine. I tried doing like I said earlier, everything in the book to get rid of it, and
Strip it away.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a part of who I am. It's what makes me happy. It's what makes me feel comfortable. There's actually a new genetic study too, and genetics, they can go both ways. People can say, well, let's look it up and then make sure they don't have babies or this and that, blah blah blah. But there's a new thing where they check the genetics of these multiple trans women, and they actually found a constant in that. So there is something to be said about gender expression genetically. That's a whole big subject, but basically it makes me happy. It makes me comfortable. This is who I am. This is who I want to be.
Great.
And I've never been really happy before.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, the difference between like before and now is I got to grow my life. I am coming from that place where I was just drinking and drugging every day and just trying to be numb. I started working for a group home in town. I had 20 clients. That taught me responsibility. I became a manager for a video game store in town.
Nice.
That taught me accountability.
Yeah.
I got back into school. That taught me what I could do for myself.
Yeah.
That I wasn't just this lost soul that was drinking and drugging every day and didn't have a person in the world to care about me because I just distanced myself from everyone. It taught me I could do things for myself. And then I started thinking about it a lot. And why am I going to run away from this thing that I can address, that I can be happy with, that doesn't hurt literally anyone besides, family that think it's a big deal, which number one is just ridiculous. If I'm happy, comfortable, and being successful, you should just take that and realize that it's okay.
Yeah.
But, that's something that I've come to terms with. I'm going to lose people. This time around, I've already lost my grandparents, my mom. My dad is uncomfortable, but he's honestly good. My brother, for
really?
Yeah, I mean, good is relative because he doesn't want to see it or hear about it. Yeah. But he's at least treating me like a human being.
That's a plus.
Yeah. I mean, being treated like a human being is definitely nice.
It's square one, but
yeah,
maybe it's a transition to square two.
Yeah.
But give me your hand, buddy.
Yeah.
I've always cared about you. Okay.
Thank you.
No matter what, no matter where you were, I've always cared about you, and I've always had nothing but love for you.
Thank you.
All right. So, I'm so proud of you.
No, thank you.
And I know it's probably, maybe I shouldn't say I'm proud of you because it's just who you are, But I mean, it takes so many. It takes guts to accept who you are. Really, really accept who you are.
Yeah.
And just be willing to be like, you know what? I'm gonna be happy. Fuck yeah, everybody. I'm gonna lose people.
Yeah.
That is just so awesome. And because I remember back in the, God, 7-8 years ago, before it had to have been before I was working for the Monolith where I currently work. I don't use the place where I work, but the name. But I remember, your head was shaved and like you were walking down the street, and you needed somebody to pick you up, and like you were just a mess. And we went to a meeting, and you were just, it was just it was just horrible. And
Yeah.
like, and I look at you now, and I'm just like, I mean, how happy are you? I mean, you got to be so happy.
I mean, just like anyone, I have bad days, I have good days. I do suffer from PTSD, anxiety,
Sure.
Depression.
Well,
but
getting your ass kicked will do that.
Yeah, but a lot of those things, honestly, are changing for me. You know, it's a daily progression.
Yeah.
My anxiety is slowly starting to go away. You know, it'll probably always be there.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't fight, but it's getting better. My depression is getting better. My PTSD, I am coaching myself out of. I mean, honestly, that's where my now, number one, I hate the whole not giving a fuck part of our society generation right now.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I do want to say that. But number two, I do appreciate the part in it where you can still give a fuck about people, but don't give a fuck about the shitty ones. You know,
Right.
no matter what I do in life, I learned that people are going to be shitty.
Yeah.
People are going to have some kind of bone to pick with you. So, if that's going to be the case, if I'm going to think about suicide as much as I did,
You thought about it a lot.
a lot. I basically every time that I thought about me being transgender, along with it came suicide. The only thing that really kept me going was hope that someday I would either not feel that way, transgender wise, or hope for the world in general. I was just, it's more of a curiosity. Like I was always really curious about what would come next in the world.
Yeah.
No matter how hopeless I was.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, everyone has their reasons. My reason was curiosity and hope. Both good reasons, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But, I kind of wanted to start back when I was a kid. Kind of starting back when I first learned I was transgender.
Yeah.
So, I remember this moment when I first got to kindergarten. I really wanted to... I was just walking on the playground. I didn't really have too many friends. And I really liked how the girls were hanging out. I didn't really enjoy, playing around with the mud, getting rough and rowdy. Mm-hmm. I appreciated the more emotional and, close-knit, connections. I didn't really put two and two together, really. But that night, when I got back from home, and it's, number one, it's rare to have memories from kindergarten.
Yeah. No.
But it was such a big defining one for me.
Right.
It kind of stuck with me. My dream is I walked into the school, and literally everyone was a woman. And I was like, oh, this is weird. Well, what's going on? And then I talked to someone. They were like, oh, yeah, these girls, they're turning everyone else into women, too. So I was like...
Is it a dream you said?
Yeah, a dream.
Okay, I was like, I missed that part, and I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And I was just like, wait, what?
So at first, I was like... In my dream, I was kind of running away from it. I was like, oh, no, I'm going to try to sneak around, make sure this doesn't happen. But then I was like, oh, everyone is really having a good time. Everyone's really enjoying themselves. So I started going towards the cafeteria where it happened. Yeah. And I remember me turning into a woman and then me just being incredibly happy. And then the next morning I woke up in basically a cold sweat because... I kind of realized,
oh shit.
Yeah, oh shit. There's another memory I had that kind of goes into why I rejected it for so long. My father, at one point, we were going down the road, and there was a trans woman walking the opposite way that we were going. And I remember him making... My dad makes stupid jokes. He's an older generation.
Yeah, my dad.
He basically called this woman a Hershey bar, and
What?
Or a He-she bar, sorry.
He-she. It's like a Hershey bar. What the fuck?
And I mean, it's not really a big joke, but the issue is that he was looking at this person as a joke rather than a person.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, why why is this a joke?
Yeah.
Because it's just a person. Like, after that, I also, because of knowing who I was and because of knowing my first instance of having that rejection, I always became hypercritical of situations. Because at an early age I realized, well, if my dad is like this, I'm sure that the world can be too. So in situations I would always think, are we hurting the other person? Or how are we affecting him? Why are we making a joke out of this person? Is it an issue that they can't control? Things like that. That became a part of my psyche very early on.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons why, even as a child, even in high school, I was always extremely closed off.
Yeah.
If you don't accept who you are, and this is a big tip to any trans women watching this, or listening to this, that don't be scared. Before you come out, you'll probably tell yourself, you have to coach yourself through every little situation.
Yeah.
And you have to run away from who you are, but you don't have to do that. You can be happy, even if you lose people, and almost guaranteed you will, unfortunately. But don't be scared. There are people out there that will love you. There are people out there that will support you no matter who you are. And these people that don't accept you, I know it's kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around, but you don't need them in your life. You are amazing for who you are. You as a person, your morals, that's who you are. Not your gender expression or anything like that. Who you are as a person, rather.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so let's talk about. I mean, I'm sure it's a difficult topic, but you've lost a lot of family. You mentioned. I remember your mom being one of the major ones. I mean, I remember you posted something. It was a very emotional post on Facebook about losing things. I think at one point I even asked you, bring it to the, but but I mean, is she still with us? Or?
Yeah, no. So she's actually back in recovery.
Oh.
This has been a recent development. Still unaccepting. She lives in a small town, and I honestly don't expect much out of her. If she decides to change one day, great. Actually, the first time it came out, she had made a comment. It was like, well, can't you just be gay? I think you're just gay, Colin. I don't think that you're trans. And then in my head, and actually I even told her this, it was like, my sexuality, which I'm bisexual. I'm not sure which way I lean. Basically, if you're a decent person and you're hot, I'm down. But, my sexuality was never a big issue for me. The gender thing, that was always the issue. And hearing that, I was like, that's actually one of the reasons why I tried to psych my way out of being transgender. I was like, well, maybe she's right. Maybe I can just... be gay, or maybe I can just do this or that.
Right.
So even when I came out as gay for a little bit, I was still being unauthentic.
Right.
I have this issue, which again I'm working out of. I always listen to people, and I always take literally everything as they say as fact, and it's a decent skill or a tool for growth. Right. Terrible skill for self-esteem. It's very it's just very bad for that. Right now I'm learning that some people are assholes, some people are bitches, and you have to be honest with yourself, not only with the negatives but with the positives.
Right.
If all you think about is negatives, you're gonna just have a shitty time, honestly.
Right. Yeah, I remember because I am bisexual as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember I had a friend, and I think you know her, Justice.
Yeah, I love Justice.
Yeah, Justice she's the shit. Justice, we love you.
Justice. You still need to message me on Facebook, by the way.
So, all right. So, Justice, we were having coffee, and she said, "Well, I'm pansexual," and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck is that?" And like, because I'm not old school, but I mean, I know things, I mean, I've dated men, and I'm obviously married to a woman, and I'm completely monogamous. But I've for a long time, and I've talked about this in my podcast before. I really tried my best to squash down that part where I'm attracted to men, you know, and I just didn't want anybody to know. I once tried coming out as bisexual to my parents, and they're like, "Oh, you're just confused," because people don't really understand, I mean, it's like they're more accepting if you're gay, because at least then you're something, you know what I mean?
People like to think in binaries.
Exactly, and it's not binary. And so I remember, one of the first things, when my wife and I were still engaged, I kissed her, and then all of a sudden I had this panic, and I said, "I've kissed boys before," and I was like, and she's like, "Okay, I've kissed girls before," and I was just like, oh, okay, and cut to 8 years later, this is a year and a half, 2 years now. I said to her, "I think I'm pansexual," and she's like, "Oh, okay," and and I said, "I think I'm what Justice is," and she, and with all due respect to my wife, I love her, but she didn't understand what pansexual was, and that's okay. Not everybody's gonna understand.
Do you mind if I touch on that for a moment?
Please.
So the thing about these new vocabularies is that honestly they're just better words. They're all encompassing. I actually just talked about this in class where in the past bisexual was the word. There wasn't pansexual back then. The reason pansexual is a thing now is because people are coming to terms with non-binary people, transgender people, and this and that. And this is going to be very controversial. But I honestly don't agree with people, unfortunately, being just bisexual. I appreciate the pansexual thing.
Yeah.
Because when you say that you're just bisexual and then you fight against transgender people, I mean, what is that supposed to indicate? Right. That you're not homophobic, obviously, because you can go both ways, but you're against these people that are trans. Right. And I've heard this argument before, actually, from people, and that's why, in my opinion, pansexual and bisexual should be and basically are the same thing, if you're just being honest about it, because gender expression, in my opinion, is who you are. Sex, that's what genitalia you're born with.
Gender is
gender is in your mind concept. Yes So if you're attracted to men and women, you should also be attracted to this person that used to be which was born a man but wants to be a female, or vice versa.
Well, I've got this thing for Jamie Clayton from Sense8, right? I mean, I don't make it. I've not made it a secret that of all the crushes in my
No, she's beautiful.
She's beautiful, and I don't care if she was a man at one point. I mean, and that's the thing, that was then, and she's all woman, and that quote that she said, and I'm assuming you watched the show.
Yeah.
When she said that the worst violence we do is is the stuff that we do to ourselves when we're not yet. That just resonated with me so much. But getting back to the thing with my wife, I said to her, she was just like, "I don't understand this pansexual thing." I was like, "Well, would it make it easier if I just said bisexual?" And she was like, Yeah, and I was like, all right, fine, I'm fucking bisexual.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing I was saying. It is interchangeable, in my opinion, and it should mean the same thing.
Right.
I mean, bisexual means basically you like both sexes.
Yeah.
And also going into that, I think it should also include non-binary people.
Yeah.
Now, again, being transgendered, I honestly don't. I touched on this on Facebook even. I don't understand it because I'm not non-binary.
Yeah.
I believe I'm female.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. But I'm still gonna fucking respect the hell out of them because that's what they feel like. That's what they're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. So I'm still gonna refer to them as they want.
Yeah.
Just because you don't understand something or you can't wrap your head around it
doesn't mean it's not real.
Doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't mean you shouldn't accept it. Actually, the Indians, going back years and years, there was multiple tribes that believed in two-spirited people.
Right.
People that were both men and female, male and female, and that's something that even to this day is a thing within those tribes.
Right.
So, the Egyptians, that was also a big major part.
Holy shit, dude, we're going deep.
Yeah, we are. Like I said,
it's good. I love it.
It's not something that's new,
Yeah.
which people like to think.
It's not.
It's not.
It goes back centuries.
Centuries. I mean, since the dawn of society, civilization.
I'm sure monkeys were fucking each other all the time.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I mean, there were monkeys fucking monkeys and men and women monkeys and.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got it.
No, monkeys.
Yeah, monkeys.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Jesus Christ.
I mean,
continue.
But yeah, I honestly lost track. But
they didn't show that in 2001: Space Odyssey at the beginning.
No.
All right, but no, not that I'd watch monkey porn or anything like that.
Yeah.
That'd be weird.
But, yeah.
But we go Egyptians, and then you were talking about
Indians.
Yeah, Indians. Right.
It's something that's always been a thing. Actually, in Rome, even before the dawn of Christianity.
Right.
Actually, this is something that we just talked about in my sexuality class, human sexuality. St. Augustine was actually the first one to start putting down these laws against various types of sex and premarital sex and things of that nature. It actually wasn't until John Paul the third, actually the predecessor to Augustine, though, that he started putting into very strict rules. So the only time that you could have sex was for procreation. Number one, if you look into the Bible, literally except for Leviticus, there will be not a single mention of premarital sex, of homosexuality, in terms of not doing, or honestly masturbation. Now, I mean, there was something that kind of went along those lines, but did not exactly state do not do these things. The people that put it into place was, starting off, like I said, St. Augustine. Now, St. Augustine, he started off actually as a pagan, and he was extremely hypersexual. But when he moved and he got this position within the church, he was able to take a wife. Now, he just got out of being hypersexual, and he was, in today's terms, a man whore.
I was going to say hypersexual, meaning he fucked a lot.
He fucked a lot. So his wife at the time was 13, so he wasn't able to marry or have sex with her yet.
Right.
So he would go around slutting around and just being a generally shitty person.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, his wife didn't like it, so I mean, they were.
I guess
they were monogamous. I mean, number one, I'm all for poly, 100%. But both parties have to be involved in that, and accept it.
Agreed.
But anyways, so he started going on this soul search, and he started saying, well, I'm doing this thing because of sex. Sex must be evil. Sex must be Satan. Pleasure must be Satan. So that's actually when the church started in on the whole if you feel pleasure, that comes from Satan. That's actually when that started. Yeah. So it actually wasn't in Scripture. This this started from this St. Augustine guy, and then it kind of progressed from there. But look into that, please. It's very interesting, very, very interesting.
I kind of want to.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm reading "Call Me by Your Name," but I'll bookmark it in my head.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, like, what was really truly the straw that broke the camel's back? I mean, that made you was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm doing this shit.
After trying everything in the book, and still being miserable, I literally tried every single thing. I tried to listen to everyone saying that I wasn't, saying that I didn't have to be. And after trying every single possible thing in the book, I just came to terms with it. It's not something that people should have to do either. People should be able to accept who they are. But for me, I tried. I tried following what people said, and nothing worked because I'm not a man. Yeah. I'm not happy being a man. I'm not comfortable with it. It's not something that I am. So I just finally, my choices were commit suicide.
Not a good choice.
No, not a good choice at all. Or
temporary.
Be happy.
Yeah, permanent solution to temporary.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so happy that, number one, my attempts of suicide didn't work. Yeah. And number two, that I didn't do it that last time. Yeah. I'm actually starting to be happy for once in my life, and all it took was listening to myself and not listening to other people and what they have to think. Happiness, there's a lot of parts to it, but just a lesson that I've been taught in my life is a big part of happiness is just accepting who you are, living your authentic self, your true self, not holding back those parts of you that, number one, don't hurt you or anyone else, and number two, that just come naturally. That comes naturally to me.
I was going to say come naturally.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I tried to. But
yeah.
But yes, I did.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, potty mouth. But, well, good. I mean, so you really did try to end it a few times. I mean, did you actually did you end up going to the ER at all?
When I was a kid, I was in and out of the ER and hospitals. It was just a pretty constant thing. Like I ended up actually enjoying the hospitals because I would be away from my mom. I would be around these people that, number one, were paid to fucking like me, not paid to accept me, and it was just comfortable. So there was even a few times where I honestly said I'm suicidal, and I honestly wasn't, just so I could go back there and get away.
In the hospital.
But
well, I mean, having been in the hospital for a long time myself, for other reasons, I was paralyzed from that down when I was 7 because of autoimmune disorder. But after a certain point, it's nice to have and my mom and I have like a very, she's mellowed out now, but like for a long time it was kind of a toxic relationship where she would constantly threaten to leave me, and I would just be in the hospital bed, and like she'd
that's wrong.
And she'd be like, I'm leaving, I'm never coming back, not because I was paralyzed, but just because she was angry. Like, it was like there was an incident where like I ate chicken skin and she told me not to. I know, it's ridiculous, right? And she just had this like outrage, and like just this blowout, and she was like, I'm leaving, I'm never coming back. And I would, and my room is positioned where I could just watch her go down the hallway. So and like she was constantly telling me she was going to send me to Boys Town, which is, I don't know if you know what Boys Town is. Yeah, like constantly telling me she was going to send me to Boys Town, and and that I was bad, and that I was like a shitty kid, and and like the thing was, I was a pretty good kid.
Yeah.
But like our parents, like they want I feel like there's that crutch where they say like, oh, I did the best I could, like, but you know what, you can do better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think parents need to know that even if you're trying your best, there's always room for improvement. And it's not just outward; it's inward.
That's actually a great point too. Is because my parents weren't the best. I actually looked to television or other friends' parents for that parental figure.
Right.
I couldn't trust my own, so I would see these people and be like, oh, that's how a mom should be. That's how a dad should be. And I mean, while I don't think that's necessarily a good thing to hold on to, it did help me stay relatively moral. Because again, if I followed what my dad said or what my mom said, I would be the biggest bitch in the fucking world. Yeah. I would just scream at people all day, and just not care about anyone. Yeah. And I just don't like that mentality at all. Yeah. I would really rather, and even though I said earlier the not giving a fuck thing, I still agree with caring deeply about people that deserve it. Yeah. I mean, it even helps understand the people that don't. Just so I'm going to school for psychology and sociology. I really want to help change our society in any way that I can, because coming from a Republican, very right-wing family, I have a very in-depth look at how that society works, and honestly, right-wing people, they're good people a lot of the time. And the thing is us as a society, we are very good at trying to keep our communities and anyone outside that community. Yeah. We shut them. We talk shit. We do this and that because it's us versus them. It's actually an evolutionary thing that we've taken in.
It's like the Sneetches.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like super simplistic, but yeah, I mean, the Dr. Seuss story of the Sneetches. Yeah. Continue. Please.
No. So, evolutionary, we had to keep our community safe from the bad ones, because it was all a power struggle. Yeah. So that's something that we just haven't been able to get rid of just yet. So it's still us versus them. And it's all about how you dictate that, though, in my opinion. So right-wing people, they're great people to people that think their same views. Yeah. Same thing with the left side. They're good people until you go against them. And I'm very left-wing. Yeah. Because I believe the right wing, unlike the left side, they're fighting for equal rights and for caring about these people. Mm-hmm. The right wing is fighting for the right to be an asshole. And in layman's terms, I mean, that's true. I mean, and I'm sorry if anyone here is right wing that is listening to this, but that's just my view. Yeah. And that's just what it comes down to. And you could fight for your argument that it's not blah blah blah, but in my opinion, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like my parents are right wing. Mm-hmm. I mean, they I think at this point there's no hiding that. I don't think they could deny it at this point. They voted for Trump. My mom just loves Trump. Anybody who talks negatively about Trump, I think it's because she's like, oh, he supports Israel, blah 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 blah. Yeah, I know, like the whole like I'm the savior to Israel.
Trump literally, the only reasons he does things is to get mass appeal. He doesn't believe in anything but his own money.
and getting attention.
Yeah, that's
you
exactly.
Can't keep his fucking finger out the tweet.
I mean, actually, the reason he started saying the whole thing against the media is because just think back to that election, 2008. Remember who was saying all that stuff first? Was the left-wing people.
Right.
The left-wing people were talking about the Fox News and how many fallacies that they created.
Yeah.
And then because of all that traction that it was getting, Trump jumped on the bandwagon.
Right.
He didn't start that.
Right.
He took the publicity that was getting and he used that for his own agenda.
Right.
Just like everything else he does. And unfortunately, a lot of people in this country are followers.
Ugh.
So they like to hear those things and be like, oh, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon too.
Right.
And Trump, he isn't the smartest person, but that's something he very much understands.
Yeah.
And if he's good at anything, that's what he's good at.
I mean, he's not the brightest bulb, and the thing is, I think he uses that as almost like a way to manipulate. It's like he's so stupid. He uses that lack of knowledge to manipulate other people who are also lacking in knowledge.
Well, have you been looking at the news recently?
I actually try not to because it just
that's
depresses
fair.
me so much.
So recently with Hurricane Dorian, he said Alabama was included in the hurricane path. Now, number one, like a week and a half, 2 weeks previous to when he put out this statement, there was a model that it could have potentially went that way. But a few days after that model was released, they ended up showing that it's actually going to curve up along the coast.
Right.
So it wasn't going to hit Alabama. So after he stated that, he took a Sharpie, okay, and he looked at this model on here and he just drew it on there. It wasn't even a full circle. Like he could have went to Zinko's or something and like got it, or Kinko's and got it fixed. But no, he just took a Sharpie and just drew it around, which number one is illegal, but this isn't, this show isn't about that. But anyways, it's just funny how narcissistic that guy is.
Yeah.
That no matter what he says, he always tries to find some excuse for it.
Right. Yeah.
And even if it's a Sharpie, that's noticeably drawn in.
I was wondering why everybody was doing this Sharpie shit, and this is why we need cable back. My wife and I canceled cable. Now all we do is watch *Handmaid's Tale* and Glow. It's like I need to start watching the news because I was just like, why do people keep doing Sharpie shit on Trump?
It's
and now
honestly
I get it. The mystery is solved. You solved the mystery of the Sharpie for me. But no, dude, it's we should probably land the plane. But man, it's so good to have you on the show, and I'm so glad that
thanks for having me.
No, and honestly, anytime you want to come back on and talk or even just hang out, I mean, I'm totally down. I mean, like I said, it was really weird because I feel like I've evolved a little bit because when I first had I had a transgender person on the last, like I said, way back at the beginning of this podcast when I first started back in October, and it didn't go so well because I thought that, like I said, with all due respect to her, she was very evasive. She didn't, she really didn't want to talk about that. She really wanted to get political, which is fine. I mean, it's our society, but I appreciate you coming on and being open and, like you said, your authentic self and being brave. And maybe, I don't know. Do you think you're being brave, or do you think you're just being happy? I mean,
I think I'm just being happy.
Yeah.
I mean,
you are happy, aren't you?
Yeah, very happy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, that's the choices that we have. We could either accept who we are and say fuck it to the people that don't accept you, or we could hide from ourselves and be miserable. So I'd rather, be happy. And that's just what it comes down to, is accepting who you are, being happy, and being your authentic self, and living your life your way.
And that was Camille Gabler, and I am so happy to have had her on the show. It's good. It's just so wonderful to see a person blossom and be happy, and like I said, the last few episodes have been just really, I don't want to say depressing, because again, that was me being me and just letting things out. And it's good to have episodes where people can be show just how happy they can, their potential, meeting their potential of happiness, and I think so many people are, you know they don't like to show how happy they are. They push it down. They don't want to be happy. They don't want to be miserable, but they also they want to be, they just don't want to be their authentic selves, like you said, like she said. Sorry, uh, and yeah. So I'm very proud of this episode, and I'm very proud of Cammy for really letting herself become who she is. She's become a wonderful soul. She was always a wonderful soul, but she is truly, her soul is just beautiful, and I'm blessed to have her on the show. And I hope all of you guys are being your true selves and happy, and as always, just taking it one day at a time.
Neuronymous.